welcome back to my Astro Imaging Journey channel. Apologies up front, I have to do a voiceover on this one, and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so if you hear me sniffle, hopefully I can edit it out, but apologies in advance. So let's get at it. So we're going to be post-processing NGC6888, the Crescent Nebula. This is an updated post-processing with some updated darks to see if I can improve the image quality in the final product. And also I wanted to better try the PCC process for this one as well. See if I can draw out some better colors in the stars. So while this is opening up, alright, we have opened it up. So let's expand this out and do a screen, or excuse me, a auto stretch. And still looks pretty good, so let me just crop in the edges a little bit so that we can not have to deal with some of the stacking artifacts when we're trying to do our DBE and everything. Let's just pull that in just a little bit. And alright, so now we're going to do a little DBE action. So bear with me while I get my points set, and I will be back when I've got this done. Alright, we've gotten done adding all our points in there, moving them around, getting them out of the main target. So it's extracting the background now. Let's do a little auto stretch on that. And that looks much cleaner than the previous image that I was working with. If you remember back, I can't remember what episode it is right now, but there was a lot more blotchiness, which is some nebulosity, but there was a lot more blotchiness that I had to work with, and a lot of it was noise that just wasn't reduced. So this is definitely looking a lot better already. So now I'm just looking for a nice dark patch for the background neutralization process. Make my preview, so bear with me for a minute. Alright, we found ourselves a nice little preview window. So let's go ahead and select that and Go ahead and apply it to our image. Seem to darken the background just a touch. And get rid of our preview window. Don't need that right now. Now we're going to try a little photometric color calibration. First thing we got to do is search for the target. Right, we'll get, that'll populate our coordinates. And we got to enter our pixel scale and our focal length. Now, this is the drizzled image. So my focal length is 1960, but due to the fact that we did a 2 times drizzle, we got to multiply that by 2. So if we don't set that right, then PCC will not be able to plate solve properly and end up with errors, and then we do color calibration and everything else. But either way, let's let this run and I'll be back when it's done. Alright, that is done. Definitely brighten it up a little bit. Hard to tell. Let's redo the stretch. We should be good to go. So, let's see here. What's the next thing I'm going to do here? Create myself a Luminance Mask. Just going to do a little bit of stretching on it to make it linear. So I'll be back when that's complete. Alright, we have completed the Luminance Mask. We've stretched it. So next up, we overlay this just to make sure everything looks right and I don't have to redo it. Yeah, that looks about right. So now I'm just using a little range selection to create yet another mask. I believe this one I was creating for the nebulosity to help protect it, so I can get rid of, hopefully gets rid of a lot of the noise. Alright, that's completed. So let me go ahead and apply that as a mask. And we will want to go ahead and hide that. Let's do a little denoising. And this is the problem with the preview window when you don't use smaller section, it can take forever. So let me cut some of this out and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got rid of that preview window. And these settings usually do me pretty well from the saved process icon. So I'm just going to let that run. Let's see what we get. Alright, that is done. So let's take a quick look at the before. After. Yeah, smoothed it out a little bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and remove the mask. And let's go ahead and do a little dynamic PSF. So let me go ahead and select stars. And I'll be back. Alright, so we've got all of our stars selected, so we're just going to go ahead and create our PSF. And there's our nice little point spread function reference image. So now we're going to go on to Deconvolution. Usually don't have too much luck with this. I'm going to try it anyways. So we selected the PSF image. Alright, so first thing I need to do is create a new mask. So I use the range selection to create that mask. So bear with me here for a minute. Alright, the mask is complete. So we're just going to go ahead and apply that. And we want to be working on the nebulosity, so we're going to have to invert that. And since I'm doing a voiceover, I'm going to spare you the long drawn out, and I'll cut here. But long story short, I did not like some worming I was getting, so I ended up not using the deconvolution process in the end. And I'll show you what I was talking about here in a couple seconds. Alright, so we've done the deconvolution quite a few times actually. It's been about 40 minutes of real time, and you can just see in the structure that there's a lot of worming between the stars and just a lot of stuff I did not like. And yeah, you can see where my cursor was there. I tried a whole bunch of different iterations on a preview window, and I just could not get it to work for me. So in the end, I decided to go ahead and skip deconvolution. So let me get back to editing and cut out the rest of this, and we'll get on to the next process. See you in a couple seconds. Alright, so with the deconvolution bust for this particular image, let's apply a little sharpening least that's the next thing I did. Just to reiterate with the deconvolution and stuff, I really think a lot of it's just the data set that I'm using. It's pretty noisy. It is DSLR based, and chalk that up in conjunction with the fact that I'm just not that good using deconvolution yet. I just haven't really had too much luck with it except for galaxies. So we move on, and as you can see, just double checking the masks I've created to see which one I want to put onto the image before I do the sharpening. So let's fast forward and see what we got afterwards. Alright, so zoom in here, take a look at what it did, undo it, you know the drill, we undo, we redo, and we just look for those subtle differences that hopefully bring out a little bit of the detail, and it looks like it did pretty well. Not a huge difference, but it's something we can work with. And so the next thing I wanted to try was the Arcsine Arcsine Stretch process. Before, when I was converting from non-linear to linear, I would always go into histogram transformation and do the manual stretch. But I've read and seen where Arcsine Stretch has the kind of brings out the color a little bit better. Just seems to do a little bit better of a job when it comes to stretching the image. So I just want to try it this time. You know, it's pretty straightforward. You got a couple sliders to play with. Didn't have any real tutorials to follow, so I'm just going by feel and look. And let's see what it ends up doing for us. Alright, so as you can see, really didn't like the way the stars are turning out. Yeah, that was just me playing with the slider. Those brighter stars just look real funky to me. Just don't like the way they look. And I'm not entirely sure if it's due to the Arcsine Stretch or some of the previous processing I had done. So I'm just going to real quick do histogram transformation stretch and see if it's in the data and what I've done up to this point. So bear with me for a minute. Alright, so we are now stretched, and let's just take a quick Why didn't I take a quick look at the stars? So, apparently I just went ahead and did a little LRGB combination, and not sure why I didn't go back and look at the stars, but it is what it is. It's the nature of the voiceover, unfortunately. I don't exactly remember what my thought process was. So, let's let this finish. Alright, so let's do an undo, redo, and brighten it up a little bit. So, just double checking my masks. Yeah, I like that one apparently, so we'll apply that one. So we're just gonna apply a little HDR multi-scale transform. It usually does a pretty good job of making the image pop a little bit more. Boost that contrast. Let's let this finish. Alright, that's completed. Just do an undo like we always do. A redo. And just makes it pop a little bit more. Just going in and doing some inspection. You can see it definitely brought out some of that structure. Still not sure I like the way the stars look though. Well, I know I didn't like the way the stars looked, but so close out the HDR and then tried a little local histogram equalization. So, as always, when we have it available, we should double check with a preview, make sure it's going to do what we want it to do. And yeah, brightens up the nebula a little bit. So we're just going to go ahead and apply it. Let's let it run. So that completed just fine. And once again, undo. Darkened a little bit. So we'll close that out. And let's remove the mask. And now we're just going to play with our curves and see what we can bring out as far as colors and saturation, all that good stuff. So let's go through this and see what we got. Alright, so we brought out some color. Let's see what we started with. Yep, those star fields very overwhelming, but we're gonna get to shrink the stars here in a few minutes. And the placeholder was the script for the dark structure enhance script. Can't create the process icon for scripts, so it's just a placeholder in my workflow. This usually does a pretty decent job of enhancing that structure as well. So we'll let this finish up and see what we got when it completes. Alright, it's done. So let's undo it. Redo. It's hard to tell at this scale, but you can see some of the structure did pop out a little bit better. I'm just looking for my star masks, trying to figure out which one I want to use. And I decided to go ahead and just create a new mask so that we can shrink those stars. Alright, the range selection just was not giving me what I wanted, so going back to the old trusty star mask process, and let's see if we can get a better star mask based on the stretched image. Alright, star mask is done. So let's overlay it and see how good of a fit it is. Yeah, that should work for us, I think. At least I hope, I think. Yep, I liked it, so I applied it. Really should learn the keyboard shortcuts for a lot of this, but that's okay. So, final process is to shrink those stars. Not sure why I opened that back up, but that's okay. And those are the settings I saved that work pretty well for me. So let's see what we end up with after this is complete. Alright. Yep, definitely shrunk those stars. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our undo again. look at the before, the after. Yep. Now let's zoom in. Take a look at our stars. Not looking too bad. I think it could still be a little bit better. I think part of the problem was I used the star mask settings from when it was still in the non-linear state. Did not use the linear star mask, or at least the star mask settings that I had for linear. So let's redo the star mask and see if we can make it a little bit better. Okay, that's completed. Let's go ahead and overlay that onto our image. And that might work a little bit better for us. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. And let's do the shrink the stars process again. And let's see what we end up with. Alright. Let's do an undo. And a redo. And yep, shrunk them down a little bit. Made them a little bit fainter, but not too faint. Okay, so last thing we're going to do, because I'm just going to go ahead and call this one good for now, is a little dynamic crop. Just want to make this basically widescreen format. So let me bring that in and see what our end result is. Alright, that was our finished product. Kind of like it, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to go ahead and say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for having to do the voiceover on this one, but it is what it is. So again, thanks for watching. Hope everybody has a good time and clear skies. Have a good one. Stick around for the outro, please.
Thanks for watching yet another episode from the Astro Media Journey channel. Really appreciate your viewership. In our upper right, we have the latest video that I have posted prior to this one. Down in the lower right, we have what YouTube thinks you will enjoy. Below is a subscription link. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you so choose, ring that bell if you want to get notified of something new, and as always, thank you. Clear skies. Remember to